What up, everybody? My name is TricksterShadow, and if you don't know me, I'm typically known for Dead by Daylight. I'm an 8,000 hour killer main. I usually play a variety of killers in that game, and I've been delving a lot more into Survivor within Dead by Daylight. But today is not about Dead by Daylight. I just wanted to say that information because I feel like it's a bit relevant because I know a lot of people that are interested in this game, which is VHS, Video Horror Society, are also Dead by Daylight players, and so they may be curious about my opinions as a kind of a veteran DBD player, about how I experience this game, the things I like about it, how it plays. That's the type of things I'm going to be talking about today. I'm not really going to be talking about the grind in this game or anything like that. I'm more so going to be talking about just the gameplay loop and the experience as the killer side in this game, which they call monster. So, one of the first things kind of want to address is that I got access to this. This is closed beta footage, and I got access to this, which I was very lucky because the devs gave me access to this. A lot of people didn't get in to the closed beta, because they're having some issues with the servers. So hopefully they resolve that and more people are able to get in. But I was able to play against the developers and some other content creators. I was able to stream it finally, and I'm in no way sponsored, I should say. Although my opinion could be swayed because I got special access, but I just wanted to make it apparent that, like, not paid in any way, although my opinion could be swayed because of that. But for those of you guys that don't know what this game is, if you guys haven't seen it, VHS, it's basically a 4v1 deathmatch game. Some of the things, I'll just pause. This is just from my VOD. I guess I won't pause it because it's just the HUD. But basically, at the top of the screen, you can see a HUD where it has different elements. You have fire, you have the holy, you have the demonic, and then you have the shock. You see me dying here. And basically, what the teenagers in this game have to do, it's survivors, is they have to craft weapons at the corresponding crafting tables, and then they have to apply those weapons on you as monster. And then when you die to an element as monster, then you get banished, and you can choose where you want to respawn. So they can only kill you with each element like one at a time, and then you have to be forced to respawn. And then as monster, what you have to do is you have to hit and down these survivors enough times in order for them to die, in order for them to have no more health. And then when they go down with basically no health, then they just finally die. And that's the basic gameplay loop. You're just whacking people as monster, and they're whacking you with weapons that they've created that have limited amount of charges on them. So if they waste all the charges, they got to make a new one. And there's other things that are in this game, and there's other things that, like, the devs have considered through the gameplay loop, because are some obvious problems that could arise through some of the way that the game is made. But I feel like the game is very well, like, put together, and there's a lot of considerations put in place, and we'll talk about that later on in the video. But before I continue, I just want to talk about, or before I really continue with this, I just want to talk about how this game isn't Dead by Daylight. I know I started this video saying that, like, oh, I'm a Dead by Daylight player, I play a lot of killer, yada yada, but this game is not DBD. Through me playing, I played about 8 hours of Monster. I played a little bit of the Survivor side, the teenager side. Through me playing 8 hours of Monster, I had a lot of people coming in chat and saying, like, ooh, a lot of these maps are, like, indoors. That's not that good. Or, like, ooh, the matches are lasting, like, longer than 10 minutes. Or, oh, like, why are you running away from the survivors? Like, that doesn't seem good or fun. You're running away. Like, are they bullying you? One thing that people need to realize is that this game is not DBD, and so a lot of the preconceptions that you have with DBD most likely don't apply to this game. One, indoor maps aren't a bad thing in this game because looping isn't really as much of a thing. There are windows that you can loop, but you really can't loop them to, like, crazy efficiency. And looping isn't really, like, the main way to play this game. Really, any loops that exist are meant to just, like, gain a little bit of distance so you can try to hide, or gain a little bit of distance so that you can try to bring your teammates, or bring the monster to your teammates so that your teammates can help you out with their weapons. And so nothing is really meant to, like, win the game by looping. Not relating to that in this game. And then, like, a lot of big complaint was, like, the 10 minutes. Oh, wow, like, I'm seeing this match is lasting more than 10 minutes. The thing about this game, a lot of people hate in DBD when matches last more than like 10-15 minutes, and the reason why is because the game is not designed for that. The game is designed for about a 10-15 minute match, and so if anything goes over that, then people start to get really annoyed because usually what happens is you like run out of pallets, or everybody has like bled out so much, everybody's like lost hook states, and it gets to a point where we're just kind of grinding. This game is not like that. This game is, since it's a deathmatch game mode, it's very feast or famine, and you can have very intense moments to where you can lose all of your health states as monster. You can lose 3 element states, 3 stigmas, and then you'll be on the last one the rest of the game, and it's constant back and forth. It being a deathmatch, your objectives aren't tied to like generators or like hooks even, or exit gates or anything like that. Your objective is tied to the other side. And so both sides are essentially playing the same game. It's just the way that they have access to their tools a little bit different. The monster has built-in powers and like built-in means to actually injure the other side. The teenagers, they have to actually create their means to injure the other side. They don't just default spawn with it. And so through that, there's constant back and forth. If a game lasts like 20 minutes, 30 minutes even, 30 minutes is like really long in this game, which you're not going to have like every game, but there you could, like, if the teens and monster are really good against each other, you could have a match that lasts about 30 minutes, which I know some people may not like, but with how much engagement there is, there's not like a lot of downtime. It's you're constantly engaging with the other side, you're constantly pushing back and forth. There is constant interaction to where you don't really feel like the time going by. You're having so much fun, you're interacting so much, and so much is going on that you can't really think about how much time is going on because you're trying to think about your next move. You're trying to think about your next play. Oh, if you're playing as like a monster, like for example, I'm playing Dollmaster right here. And I got to think about like, oh, are they coming to attack my body when I'm controlling one of these dolls, or am I placing the dolls right? Oh, this person's been hit a lot. Like, should I chase them? Oh, but they have a weapon. They're going out in the open. Do I like actually chase them, or are they like setting up for an ambush? And so there's so many things that you got to like think about. There's so many ways that you get engaged with that the time just kind of flies by. It's not like with DBD to where, or any other asymmetrical game to where like there's an escape mechanic to where the other side just kind of like runs away from you and you don't really engage with them. This game is constant engagement, which is very, very good. That being said, like I was saying earlier, this game is not DBD. I will compare it to DBD because that's the vehicle that I know a lot of people will understand asymmetrical games through. But again, this is not DBD. What I wish and hope for when people go into this game is not necessarily like expecting a DBD experience. You can expect like maybe like have a little bit more fun than you do with DBD, but not in the same ways that you play DBD. You're not going to be looping the killer in this game. You're not going to be like dominating the survivors in this game. It is a very much so back and forth, pretty balanced experience, all things considered. And so with this game, try to go into it with really no expectations. And I'm not saying that because it's a bad game. I'm saying that because if you're expecting this game to be DBD, it is not DBD. All right, I feel like I really got to reinforce that because so many people are going to go into this and be like, how do I loop the killer? I cannot loop. This game must be bad. All right. Sorry, I have like a whole page of notes. I'm trying to like go through them as much as possible because there's so much information. So one of the biggest things that I liked about this game, and I played about 8 hours of it. And a lot of these matches, like it was my first time playing Werewolf, my first time playing Dollmaster. And one of the main things that I liked about this game is that there were no like times that I felt cheated. In other games, like you may feel like, oh, like people are like being really cheap, or they're using cheap tactics, and they're winning just by like just metagaming or doing whatever. And you may say like, oh, well, this game is so new, like maybe people haven't discovered the metagame. These people that I played against, especially because the beta keys weren't really given out as they thought were gonna happen. People that I played against have thousands of hours in the game. A lot of these developers have thousands of hours, and they're very, very good at their own game, and they will use what meta they've discovered to no end. They won't pull any punches. And so what I found is that whenever I got outplayed, whenever I lost, or whenever I like died as a monster, I lost a stigma, or whenever I killed somebody else, it never felt like it was just like a free win, a free kill. It always felt like it was earned. And whenever I lost, it always felt like I lost because either I made a bad decision, I pushed, I was too greedy, or the people that were playing against me played so well that they legitimately outskilled me. I never once felt like I was just like cheated out. And that feels amazing in a game, because if I lose, I don't care if I lose. I just want to lose because the other people are just better than me. Not because of like any like BS mechanics, not because of lack of interaction. I want to lose because they interact with me a lot, and they were just simply better players. And even through them being better players, the way that this game teaches you how to play it is very, very intuitive. So I know I'm going to go back to DVD. Again, this game isn't DVD, but it's easiest way for me to explain it to like most people that are coming from DVD. And it's also like I play DVD as well, and so it's the easiest way for me to explain it. But like in say like Dead by Daylight, you may have a game to where like when you first start playing killer, you may be like chasing somebody, you feel like you're doing really good in chase, and then you finally down them, 4 generators pop really fast. And then you're like, wow, I guess I didn't do well. I don't know what I was really doing wrong. I felt like I had a really good chase. And the reason why you may feel like kind of like that may be like it contribute to like experience of like feeling cheated, or you may feel like people are playing really cheap or unfun, is because the objectives are being done without you being there to see them. In this game, since the objectives are tied to you, you're always going to see every success and every failure. So when you die in this game, you will know like, oh, say like for instance you like push into a room and then you get ambushed from behind because you didn't know like there was like a little spot, little cubby to where somebody could hide behind the door and be able to ambush you. And then you'll know next time you go in that room, I need to make sure I check that corner in order to make sure that they can't push on me right there, and I won't just die immediately. In case there's somebody there. Or I've had moments where I'm playing monster in this game and I push into a room, I get ambushed, and then I just instinctively just hide behind a pillar while I'm getting hit, because usually with most of the weapons they gotta hit you multiple times in order to actually damage you. And so I instinctively get behind a pillar and I'm actually able to block the shots. And that feels amazing. That feels so cool, just being able to like know like where like, oh, if I'm expecting somebody to be in this room and they actually are in the room, then I can just go behind this pillar and I can try to block some of the shots. Although it's not like just a 1-for-1 like always go behind this pillar if there's somebody in this room, because depending on their positioning, they could be close enough to the pillar to where the pillar really doesn't do as much, and to where you need to like change up your gameplay. And so you're constantly learning like room by room, map by map, the strategies of how to play against people. And whenever you die, you internalize those strategies, and then whenever you're able to actually use those strategies in a game to beat your opposing side, it feels so rewarding. I can't tell you, like, even if I've lost in the match, me playing monster, if I was able to use information that I learned from a previous match to just down somebody and just get that playoff, it feels so satisfying. And eventually you get enough of those plays stored in your memory to where you start playing really well. You start knowing the maps a lot better. You start knowing the strategies from room to room, and it all starts meshing together, and it feels really fun to just have all of that work out, which I really enjoy. I think like it's such a simple concept of like tying the objectives to each other, and I've talked about this in a previous video. But it works so well with like trying to like intuitively teach you how to play the game, and intuitively like oh, like you pushed here, like, oh, you pushed here and then you died, like, obviously. And so you need to remember that spot or stuff like that. It's so good. It is so simple, but so good. All right. So now, in terms of like, you may be wondering, like, how many monsters are there in this game? How many killers are there in this game? Currently, there's 3 killers. There's 3 monsters. And the monsters go Wart, Werewolf, and Dollmaster. Wart is a giant lizard man. I actually have a video of Wart. Let me see if I can find it. So basically, Wart is a giant lizard, and he has 3 different powers. Every monster has 3 powers. All right, I found it. Every monster has 3 powers, and you can augment the powers as well with different mutations, which I'm not going to really go into today. I'm just really talking about the basic gameplay loop. So as you can see, like when you first spawn in this match or in this game, you spawn in as a survivor, and then you can choose to change, and then after 15 seconds, you have to change. So the way that this monster works is there's a leap ability, there's an armor ability, and there's an echolocation ability. Sleep ability, I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Sleep ability, you essentially go forward, and then you have an AoE around where you dropped, wherever like your feet touch, and then anybody within your AoE, they get staggered and they stop running as fast. Your echolocation ability, which I'm about to use, which is on your longest cooldown, it shows you a delayed location of where everybody is. Now it goes out, and then wherever they were when it goes out, and then it comes back after like a second, is where they are. And so there's a little bit of like a second or 2 delay to where they can make like a little bit of a play to try to get away, like this person did. And then there's the armor, which I just did. I armored up. The armor basically makes it to where you can tank a full damage state. So if somebody tries to hit me with like a fire weapon, for example, instead of me dying to the fire weapon, it'll instead eat my armor, and my armor will drop, and I'll be able to be all fine and dandy. And yeah, this killer, I feel like this monster is very good for like kind of newer players, people that are just learning how to play monster. His armor makes it to where you can push onto people and not have as much risk, because you can afford to take a little bit of damage without actually possibly losing a health state. His leap ability is very good for like dashing in like around corners, like I just tried to do. I thought somebody was a little bit closer around that corner. You could dash around a corner and then be able to smack somebody before they can actually use their weapon on you. And the echolocation ability is very good for like learning the distancing, where people are, preventing yourself from being ambushed, knowing where to go, so on and so forth. Like I use the echolocation ability there, and I knew that there was a bunch of people in there, and so I chose not to push in there because I didn't want to be ambushed. Now the main weakness for this monster is that since he can like essentially tank a bunch of hits to his armor, and his armor is timed, so they can just like run out your armor if they manage to get enough distance. So you need to like time it well. But if somebody managed to deplete your armor and destroy it with a weapon, if they have another teammate with another weapon nearby, that second teammate, after the armor is depleted, they can get the hits on you and be able to get a damage state. And so this monster is very, very weak against grouped up teams. You really got to try to find people that are a little bit alone or a little bit out of position. And then if you can actually get that, then you can do pretty well. The armor states can help you with grouped up people. It can help you like tank a little bit of shots and be able to get enough distance, especially with the leap, in order to get a hit. But you got to play very careful. You got to play very defensively. This is a lot more, I don't want to say methodical, but a lot more like slow of a monster. It's a lot more slow. You got to play a lot more defensively. You're not constantly pushing. You're trying to choose your battles. You're trying to armor up at the right opportunities, and you're trying to find the spots to where you can leap around the corners and be able to get those hits. Now, the second monster, and I have another footage, is the werewolf. The werewolf is super aggressive. If you like hyper aggressive gameplay and just always just like pushing people, I think I'm just gonna leave it at 2 times speed. Werewolf was probably for you. So the werewolf, he really punishes when teams group up. He's kind of like the opposite of Wart, to where if people are grouping up against him, that's where he thrives. So he has 3 different abilities, much like Wart. He has an ability, like I just activated there, the Berserk, to where he essentially just rushes forward really fast for a short duration, basically to close the gap. He also has a howl ability, which I did right before. So you can see, let me rewind it a little bit more. Let me take it off of super fast mode. So essentially he can go into Berserk, Sprint Burst, and then he can also howl. When he howls, everybody within kind of a short radius of you, they cover their ears and they stop whatever they're doing and they can't use their weapons. You can see that person, they're covering their ears because the howl is affecting them and they can't use their weapon. So it's really good because if you have a bunch of people all grouped up together, you can howl, none of them can use their weapons, and you can just go in for an easy hit. It's very, very good. And then the final ability that this monster has is hunting. So you can see after I get this hit on this teenager right here, on the survivor, I go into the hunting mode. And this hunting mode has little heartbeat, little like red, little red HUD around the screen. And you also hear a heartbeat. And the closer that you get to a teenager, to a survivor, the more the heartbeat grows. And so you can use that for tracking. You can use it like if you hear a really intense heartbeat, and you obviously know that you need to howl so that they can't use their weapons. And so you can more like, you have a little bit more knowledge of like when you should push. You can have more knowledge of like when you hit somebody, trying to like track them down to get that second hit, stuff like that. And like here, this is one of the cases I was like talking about, to where I'm trying to find somebody, and then I don't even think about like, oh, this is a bit of an open area. They could just pop up around this corner and be able to get me. And that's exactly what happens. I don't hear this guy because he's walking. Walking is a lot more suppressed. It doesn't make as much noise as running, and he's able to get me. I just push immediately instead of like trying to check my corners. And so I immediately learned like, okay, I need to not do that next game. So yeah, really the main drawback, or the main like way to counter this monster, from what I've seen, is people spreading out effectively. If you have like people kind of like staggered around the map, and if you have like one person like eat the howl and then they run to a person that's close by but they weren't within howl range, then that person can help the person that got howled, can't use their weapon. They can help them by pushing away the killer or even damaging the killer, which is very effective. And so if people spread out a little bit more, they can do very, very well against this monster. However, a good werewolf is insanely oppressive. Insanely oppressive. A good werewolf, from what I've played against, just constantly getting hits, is constantly switching targets, is constantly pushing people out, and you can't escape them. Like, I've had a lot of moments to where like I keep on trying to make a weapon and I just can't do it because the werewolf is constantly moving around the map with their sprint burst ability, constantly getting from point A to point B, and then by the time that like I get to a weapon crafting table, they're already back on me again. They're super mobile, super aggressive, and because of that, if they can get a good early start of the game, they can steamroll. And not really steamroll, but they can do really, really well, because I don't really think steamrolls are as big of a thing in this game. This game is very much so back and forth. The power dynamic is not always in the killer's favor. It shifts constantly throughout the match depending on different factors. All right, and then the final monster, which is the one that I was playing footage of initially, is Dollmaster. Now, Dollmaster is probably the hardest to play out of all of them. Essentially, how Dollmaster plays, like you were seeing through the gameplay, is Dollmaster sets down little dolls. Default, he has 5 dolls, and he can take control of them. He can control them, and then you can see that there's a little duration, right here. It shows you like how long you can control the doll, and then if the bar goes all the way down, then you get just kicked out of it, and the doll just goes immobile, and it just deactivates essentially. And when the dolls are deactivated, when you're not controlling them actively, people can try to like sneak up on them and disarm them with their hands. And then also when they disarm them, they like essentially like take away a doll from you, like a maximum doll capacity. And then also, if they manage to kill you with a weapon, it takes away one of your dolls from maximum capacity. And you may be thinking like, well, that's really unfair. Like, how do you get your dolls back? Well, the way that you get your dolls back is by actually getting hits. If you get a hit either with the doll master's body or with a doll, then it'll give you 1 doll back. So 1 doll per hit. And so with that, if you're constantly like putting your dolls in obvious places, if you're constantly like trying to like make a network of your dolls without actually like methodically thinking about it, or like constantly like rushing with your dolls trying to like eat weapons, you're not going to be having as good of a time. Because one of the interesting things about this monster is that if a doll gets injured by a weapon, the doll master does not get injured by it. Instead, his location is revealed, he gets stunned for a couple seconds, and it's very scary because since his location is revealed and he gets stunned for a couple seconds and he doesn't have anything with his body that he can actually like do, he can't armor up, he can't howl. And so when people find his body, it's very, very it's so cool that I was able to like actually evade these hits. It's very, very scary when people are by your body. And ooh, I got the hit there. I, I played all these matches, but like it's just it's so intensive matches. And so there's constant like micromanaging of like trying to make sure that your dolls are in the right place, trying to make sure that your body isn't getting attacked, trying to make sure that your body isn't found because if somebody hears the lullaby that's by your body, because if they get in your body, they hear like a lullaby. If they hear your lullaby, you got to make sure that like, oh, somebody was by my body, they heard the lullaby. I need to make sure that I move around. So there's a lot of things that you got to try to micromanage, and not everybody is going to be able to do that because it takes a lot of map knowledge, takes a lot of knowledge of like how people move about the map, and it takes a lot of just like remembering to do things constantly. And that's something that is going to be very hard for a lot of people. I think this monster has a very high skill floor and a very high skill cap. This will probably be the monster that if it's a good doll master, it's going to be really hard to beat them. But they're only really hard to beat if they've actually dedicated the hundreds or thousands of hours to like mastering them. This is going to be one of those that when they master them, they're going to be really nasty, but you can't even really be mad at them because they're just so good at a monster that took so long to learn. And I'm not saying that this monster is OP because I think this monster is far from OP. It's just this monster has so much potential that I could see this monster being really nasty. Because honestly, like there's a lot of times like you can see in this match, I lost 3 of my elements, 3 of my stigmas because they were able to find my body and I just couldn't get out of the way fast enough. And now there is a way to get out of the way. So like his powers, essentially he can set down a doll, he can control the dolls, and then he can also teleport. He can essentially like take the place of a doll. And then when he does that, it consumes the doll, and then he has to like place in another one. And then when you're controlling the doll, really the only power that the dolls have is that they can leap forward and that they can also like switch dolls before like their time is up. And I actually see like me maining this monster. I see me maining this monster. I think I'm gonna try to get good with all of them. But this one is so fun to play. It is so fun to try to get good with. It's just such a fun experience, and I think that there's a lot here. I think there's a lot to this monster, and I think it's really, really fun to play. I'm just gonna go back to the beginning while I talk about the rest of the things I'm gonna talk about. Now, uh, if you like, one thing about this game is that if you're good with like one monster, you're not gonna be good with all of them. I hope that like I conveyed that if you're good with like Wart, that doesn't mean you're necessarily going to be good with Werewolf. If you're good with Werewolf, doesn't mean especially that you're going to be necessarily good with Dollmaster. It takes a lot of like knowledge of their kit, a lot of like knowing like their strengths and weaknesses in order to play them effectively. And if you don't know those things, and if you haven't put in the time to learn them, you're not going to do well with them, just plainly. And that feels really good. And like none of these monsters, one of the biggest like worries that I've heard a lot of people say is that because the monsters can be hurt, a lot of people have been worrying like, oh, are the monsters like, are you able to be bullied in this game? Since they can kill you in this game, is it like a bully simulator? And I think that this game, like it really doesn't feel like anybody can really bully you. Now, there's various mechanics that are set in place to where like people can just like bully you in this. Like it's not just like a complete stomp, even if the survivor team is more experienced than you. But I feel like a lot of the time, this game is very much so based on skill, and it's not just like a steamroll, even if somebody's skillful. There's a lot of considerations that are put in this game that aren't necessarily put into other asymmetrical games. I've played a lot of asymmetrical games, and usually within about 5 minutes of playing them, I can immediately start seeing things like the devs didn't even consider because they haven't really put 5 minutes into the game with maybe like the mindset that like me who has played like a lot of asymmetrical games or like other players that play a lot of asymmetrical games may think. Sometimes you just don't see that as a developer. But like there'll be instances in other games where I'll be like, I wonder if I can do this like really cheesy strategy. I wonder if like I can just play in this like really cheesy way, particular way, and I wonder if it'll work. And then it'll work, and I'll be like, wow, that's incredibly unbalanced. But I had multiple times in this game to where I thought about that, to where I thought like, I wonder if I could play in like a really unbalanced way, or like I wonder if like this is like going to be an unbalanced part of the game, and it's already been thought of. For example, I have a couple examples here written down. When the monster hits a teen, I initially, when I saw the gameplay, I was like, okay, so the monster hits the teenager. All the teenagers possibly have weapons. What's stopping a teenager from just like running up to you when you're in the hit cooldown and just murking you, just applying the weapon to you? Well, what's good is that by default on all the monsters, when you land a hit on somebody, everybody stops being able to use their weapon and they cover their ears and they can't wind up their weapons for a few seconds. This makes it to where if you manage to actually outplay one of the survivors, manage to actually get a hit on them, and you're stuck in the animation lock, even for a few seconds after the animation lock, they can't do anything to you. And it's very, very rewarding. And it's very well thought of. Like, that's something that like really impressed me. Like, even something like that really impressed me. Like, wow, okay. Like, if I actually manage to like outplay one of the people, then like it'll actually punish the entire team, and I'll be able to like capitalize even more. I'll be able to snowball a little bit more if I choose to greet it. There's also like I was worried about like people immersing, like people like what's stopping people from just like hiding the entire match, because like this game doesn't have a match timer. Like there's no like set amount of time before like the match is like forced to end. Like what are people going to do? Like what am I going to do as monster if like everybody just hides? Well, every monster has a built-in tracking mechanic, at least so far, and also there is a rift. Now I believe you can see a rift somewhere in this. I end up trying to like cheese it a little bit in this. I'm gonna try to like skip through this and find it, but if I can't, essentially rifts. Oh, here it is. Rifts spawn on the map, and essentially what a rift is it's a capture location to where if the monster captures it, then the monster can see all the survivors' locations for 60 seconds, or until the monster either hits a survivor or damage starts being applied to the monster. So if somebody starts like hitting you with a flamethrower, or you manage to hit one of the teenagers, then the aura reading goes away. And then it conversely works the same for the teenagers, to where the teenagers capture it, they can see the monster for 60 seconds, but if they get hit or if they start damaging the monster, then they lose the aura reading. Now, this rift also goes away if anybody gets hit or if the monster starts taking damage. So even before anybody captures it, it starts going away if the game starts progressing. Really, the rift is there to incentivize gameplay. It's not meant to be there to try to like make one side like absurdly powerful over the other, although it does make you a lot more powerful. It's meant to just force gameplay. If somebody is trying to not engage with the other side, they have to engage. Either you have to go try to capture that point and engage with the other side of the capture point, or if you don't try to capture the point, you got to deal with the other side having an insane amount of information on you. And that's so good. That's such a good built-in mechanic to force people to engage with each other if they would otherwise like not want to, because they're too scared to. They're too scared to push. They're too scared to like make any risky plays. It forces people to make those risky plays and to make the gameplay a lot more interactive. And then even like the way that they do like their hand holding mechanic. And what I mean by like hand holding mechanic is like in Dead by Daylight. I keep on referencing Dead by Daylight. There's Bloodlust. Bloodlust essentially in Dead by Daylight is where if you're in a chase long enough with the survivor, then you start to go faster, so you can hopefully catch up to them a little bit quicker. And it's kind of like a little hand holding. Like if your chase is going too long, then like here's a bone like to help you out a little bit. Now, in this game, they don't really have a bloodlust mechanic like that. There's nothing that'll like speed you up when you're in chase. Instead, their hand-holding mechanic is their rage mechanic. Now you can see that there's a rage bar in the middle of the screen right next to my stupid face. This rage bar, it fills every time, or it adds progress to the rage bar every time that you get a basic hit on any of the survivors, any of the teenagers in the match, and also accumulates charge over time. And then there's also you can also, on top of like just accumulating charge over time and basic hitting the survivors, you also get charge if you feast on one of the slug survivors when they're downed. Basically, you just go over the top of them and you sort of like eating them, or like eating their aura or soul or something. And then when you do that, then you fill your rage bar a little bit more. Like you can see, I'm almost fully enraged because I hit somebody. And then when you fully become enraged, when you fully are able to unlock your rage, then you have essentially a free insta down. Now it's not really free because you had to really go out of your way to like hit a bunch of people. But as soon as you're enraged, you get an insta down on the next person that you hit, and that insta down is very useful because the only way for people to die in this game is if they go down. Even if they're at critical health, they won't die until they go down. So even if you have somebody that has like 1 health and you hit them once, now they're injured. Oh, but they don't die because they need to go down in order to take away the 1 health and go all the way down to 0. There's no way to live for you to like hit somebody that's healthy and they just like pass out. And so it's very, very key. But this rage mechanic, it only really applies to you if you're having trouble like downing people, because it resets every time that you down somebody, whether you down them with rage or without rage. And so if you are just playing well, if you're like getting a consistent amount of pressure, then you're not going to have the enrage because you don't need it. And then also, if the teens manage to stun or kill you, you lose your rage. And so if you misplay, they take away your rage. And so I feel like it's a really, really well done mechanic. I feel like it enables a lot more tension on the match, enables a lot more like versatility with gameplay, enables a lot more interesting plays, and it makes it to where if somebody is struggling to win because the people are so good, or because the monster is misplaying a little bit, or because like just any like situation with the match, it makes the game a lot more intense. I feel like it's done really well. There's a lot of counterplay to it. It's not completely like BS. It feels earned. It doesn't feel cheap at any time, at least to be like playing the monster. And really, like the main takeaway I have to take away from this game, and hopefully I've been able to convey this through me rambling for almost, oh my gosh, 40 minutes, is that this gameplay loop is very satisfying. Every time I lose, I feel like I can use that loss in order to be able to play better in my next match. Every time I win, it feels super satisfying. I feel like I used my information from previous matches in order to get that win. And I really haven't felt this rewarded playing a game, especially a multiplayer game, in a long, long time. And I'm very excited to see how this game develops and it flourishes in the future. And I hope people give it a chance. And I'm definitely going to be streaming it. If you guys want to see me streaming it, twitch.tv/TricksterShadow. I'm definitely going to be streaming it and trying it out and trying to become better, because I really want to see this game flourish. I think this game is something special. I think this game is honestly one of a kind. I don't even think it's like people will always say like asymmetrical games are like, yo, it's a DBD clone. This game really isn't a DBD clone. Its similarities begin and end at 4v1 asymmetrical. And even then, the way that they do 4v1 is different, because the 4v1 is a deathmatch game mode. It's not like a hide and seek cat and mouse game mode. You have to kill the other side, and there is a little bit of cat and mouse of like you getting chased and you not wanting to die, but there is like engagement with both sides of trying to like hurt the other side, and it's very different from like Dead by Daylight or other asymmetrical games. There's no escaping in this game, so you have to engage with the other side. There's no like evading the other side in order to win. And then even like the horror aspect is very different from Dead by Daylight. Like this is a lot more campy horror. There's no blood in this game. When you hit somebody, they get VHS tape that goes all around their head. It's not meant to be a scary game. Although the Dollmaster does look scary. It's meant to be scary through his gameplay. Because one of the things that the devs have touched on in their interviews is that you can have like like a teddy bear that's chasing you. But if the teddy bear has a knife and you know that the teddy bear can hurt you, it's gonna be pretty scary. That teddy bear can be as cuddly as it can be, but if that teddy bear, if you know that it can harm you, you're gonna be afraid of it. And so you can have a lot more of like a, I guess like PG or like family friendly game. Although I don't think this game is completely family friendly, just because you are chasing people like scissors and knives. Um, you can have a lot more family friendly of a game, but like not be as gruesome, but still be super scary. And so if you're not wanting to play this game, oh, because it's too cartoony or like I don't think I'd be afraid of it, I dare you to play it. I honestly dare you to play it and try to say that there are not times where you just like almost screamed or you screamed out loud or you actually got frightened, because I have been more frightened by this game playing hours and hours of it than I have through playing like other horror games that are more contemporary, like that are competitors to this, or even horror games that are outside of this. And yeah, I know this video is very long-winded. This video is probably very ranty. I just wanted to put out some initial thoughts about the gameplay, the things that I liked about it, how the game actually functions, and I hope that you guys actually enjoyed it. I probably will put out another video talking about like what I think about the grind, because I haven't really fully delved into the grind and the perk system and everything. Although it does look very good. It looks very promising. I'll probably do another video of that if you guys are interested. And I'll also probably be uploading some of these matches, because some of these matches I feel like are very good, and I feel like they can stand alone, and like you guys can learn from them, and it can be like a learning and entertainment experience. But besides that, thank you all for watching. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, night, or whatever, and I hope you guys actually get some keys. I hope they are actually able to get the beta keys out to everybody so more people can experience it, so more people can see how much fun this game actually is and how much enjoyment can be had. Have a good day, everybody. Have a good night, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye, everyone.